to the Kat Kanavos Show, everyone. I am your host, Kathleen O'Keefe Kanavos, but my friends all call me Kat. So I hope you will too. I am the co-author of the book Dreams That Can Save Your Life, written with Dr. Larry Burke of Duke University Medical. We have a great guest for you tonight. Jim Phillips is here to share his wisdom with us on the key to life. His wisdom is so profound that he just had a cameo in the movie Becoming the Keys. And in that cameo, I watched him. He was actually sharing the keys to life with us, or the key to life. And his key to life and his wisdom about that key actually started when he was a child in church. So without further ado, let's bring him on and ask him all those questions. Welcome to the show, Jim Phillips.
Hi, Kat. How are you?
I'm doing great. So, Jim, your book is absolutely gorgeous. I love the cover. Can you hold it up for us so we can take a look at it? Because it almost looks like this beautiful sun rising on a new morning, which is the key to life. And this is the key to life, living in full expression. So tell us, what does it mean to live in full expression, and is it possible to live any other way?
Well, the whole idea behind living in full expression is to live in the truth of who we are. So most of us are living in full expression of that which we are not. So that's the whole point. It's about really discovering, realizing who we are. Once we do that, embracing that, living from that as that truth, and then that's our expression in the world. And I want to point out, and I'll show you with the book again, if you look at the title, The Key to Life, Living in Full Expression, the word life is the acronym for living in full expression. So within the word life is the key.
And so can you share one of your tips or your keys with us on how we can live in authenticity or in full expression? How would we know if we were not?
Well, we know how we're not by how we feel, and we all know that we have that gut feeling or those intuitions and senses that would tell us when we're not being authentic or when we're not being true or when something's not right for us. So we can tell when we're not being our authentic self by those feelings. Now, the challenge with most people is we don't trust it. We feel that maybe it's a queasiness, maybe it's butterflies, maybe it's a sense of knowing that something should be other than it is. And we just say, okay, well, that's just my body reacting. There's really no truth to it. And so we ignore it. And then we have the experience, not that we wanted to have, but the experience that just showed up. So I think the first thing to do is pay attention. And we hear it all the time. It's about being present. And being present just means you are where you are. You're aware of, conscious of everything that's happening around you. But then more importantly, it's about what's happening inside. And then it's about looking at the correlation between the two. Because as you know, what we're feeling inside is being represented on the outside. And if we don't like what's happening on the outside, then we need to pay attention to our inside and create a different outward projection, I guess is the best way to say it, so people would understand that.
You know, and Jim, you said something that I found really interesting, how we need to be in the moment. We need to be aware of ourselves in the moment. It's becoming, I find, more and more difficult to do because we are so bombarded by our cell phones, our computers, people beeping us. Something just went on to Twitter and, oh my goodness, we have to see what it is right now. And so rather than our focus suddenly, being on us, maybe we were working on something within, it gets pulled away. How would you suggest we deal with this today?
Well, it gets back to awareness. Be aware of the fact that you're allowing yourself to be distracted by these things that are technology or other people. And then here's the scary part to all of this, and that is that we hear it all the time about, we've heard it because of what's going on politically in this country and around the world, just about fake news and whatever else you want to call whatever is being put out there. Mm-hmm. people will share it with other people across the world without checking to see whether or not it's true. So basically, we're having all this misinformation perpetuated all the time. And what most people don't realize is when they hear someone say fake news, it's typically attributed to the media. But the biggest perpetrator of fake news being out there is ordinary, regular people who are on Facebook and Twitter and just regular, any social media. They get drawn in by the headline of whatever it is they see, and then they share it without really seeing what the body was or checking to see if it was the truth. And that's where we are not being authentic to ourselves. First and foremost, we have to make sure that what we're sharing with other people or just putting out into the world is true as much as we can know that it's true. And then when we know that it's true, then it's okay to share it. But then we have to be, and this is part of being mindful, we have to be mindful that when we find out something is not true, to own it and say, okay, well, I said this, I did this, whatever the case may be. I take ownership of the fact that what I put out there was incorrect. Here's what I have since found. And that brings us into the present moment, because you can only take care of those things right now. You can't do it tomorrow. You can't do it yesterday. It's about being here right now, recognizing what's the truth for each one of us, because my truth can be totally different than yours. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's about me living my truth, you living yours. And as I do that, I'm going to continue to grow and expand and have the experiences in life that my soul is intended for me to have.
And I know you talk about how, and we were talking about this before we even went on the air, how you love to get up really early in the morning where there are less distractions. And you walk with yourself is the best way I could describe it. You take yourself for a walk and you connect with self. And you discuss with self, and then you get that validation from self. And that keeps you in that moment, which is such an important moment in your life. You will never have that morning moment again, not that morning moment. And so it's so important. Tell us a little bit about this.
Well, it's an interesting process, and I've been doing it for about 30 years now. Probably within the last 5 or 6 years, I started calling that time being immersed in the silence of the dawn, because it just kind of sums up, and it's a very spiritual feeling to me when I use those words. And it is. It's when I'm most connected. I just let go of anything that might be bothering me. There's very few people out. It's still dark out. And if I have questions that I need to have answered, or if I'm trying to work through a problem, I would just ask the question out loud, and I'll get a response. And it's usually immediate. It typically will come in the form of a phrase. It could come in a word, but it'll be a key word that as I continue to think about the word, or it'll expand and it'll become a phrase. But pretty much everything comes in the form of a phrase or a quote. And then I can play with it, and then it's a matter of me understanding it, because it's not like, okay, I get this quote and boom, I've got 3 paragraphs of information. It's not like that. The information that I'm given in the quotes is an opportunity for me to work through whatever it is that I'm working through. And it typically supports me in that process. And it's always something that will benefit anybody who is open to listening to it.
That's beautiful. Now, you have a story that really started all of this many, many years ago. And it had to do with when you were in church. Can you share that story with us?
Sure. I was 13 years old, and I was sitting at church with my parents. My dad was over to my right-hand side. My mom was to my left. I didn't particularly like church, and it had nothing to do with whether I believed in God or Jesus. I was born and raised Christian, so it had nothing to do with that. But there was an uneasiness about being in church for me. And it could have been a lot of it could have been just about being 13 years old, being a boy, knowing I'd rather be out playing basketball or baseball or doing something like that. But in any event, I had this uneasiness. And I remember sitting there looking at the minister at the front and looking around and being aware of the fact that I just felt very uncomfortable. There were some people over to my left-hand side who were about to pass the offering basket. And I remember thinking that just something's off. There's just something not right. And then all of a sudden up here above my head on the right-hand side, there was this deep, clear voice that said, "You're going to be doing this someday." And I looked up and I couldn't see the source of the voice. And I looked at my parents. Neither one of them had moved, so it was apparent. They didn't hear anything. Nobody in front of me. I looked over to the people to the left that were going to pass the offering basket. They were still standing there doing what they were doing. And of course, first thought is, did that really happen? And then I thought, well, there's no way I'm going to be doing this. I mean, I'm sitting here thinking about how uncomfortable it is. I can't imagine me being in front of a congregation and doing this work. And then it was a couple minutes later, up same side, above my right side of my head, same voice said, you're going to be doing it differently. And then I said, doing what differently? Because I'm not going to do this. This is not what I picture for myself in my life. And I never told anybody about that. And it didn't come out to my parents until my book came out. And that was 4 years ago. So it was a good, not 50 years, 45 years that I never shared that with anybody. But there became points in my life where I was put in a position to talk to people that might have been going through a difficult situation, and for whatever reason, I would have the ability to be able to talk to them about whatever their issue was, really not having a whole lot of experience with the issue. And I guess people would say that it was wisdom beyond my years. I mean, I don't know. When you're in that situation, you don't know where it's coming from. You just say what comes to you, and you know, hopefully it benefits the other person. So I had situations like that. And then I got more involved in metaphysics when I was about 24, 25 years old, and started really looking at what all that was about. Mm-hmm. Was always interested in how humans, how we act, how we behave, and why some people are more successful than others, why some appear to have better lives than others, and why was I born here in this country and other people are born in third world countries where their immediate life experience is one of hunger. And yet I was born here. So what decision was made, or what did I do to deserve this life versus somebody else? So it was always those thoughts that would come up that I would always think about and try to discover the answer for. So that's been the whole process for me.
So, and is any of that part of what I read in your book about how it's almost like the earth plane is almost like a school? Would that answer some of those questions that you just brought up?
Yes, I take a little bit of a different approach. A lot of people will say that it's a school, mm-hmm. and I've been challenged on this, and I'm open to whatever term anybody wants to use, because whatever anybody decides Earth is for them, that's what it's for. I'm not going to get into an argument. I think we're here for the experience. I don't get into the term learn, because I think we come here already knowing everything we need to know. We need to experience it, though, and so you know, you hear about, as soon as we're born, we forget everything that we knew, and it's more or less we're starting off fresh. And I think that's more the way that it works, and we're coming here to learn something. I do think that we have specific experiences that our soul wants us to have for the further expansion of our soul. And, you know, for what reason? I don't know. That's dependent upon what our soul is trying to do. But the one phrase that I was given during one of my morning walks, because I asked the question, what is this all about? And especially when you look at life today and the craziness that's going on, and how we treat each other, and how I mean, here's a crazy thing. I read an article one time where the top 45 richest people in the world could end hunger on the planet. That's crazy to me. 45 people. Now imagine what the corporations can do, or imagine what the top 100 people can do. And I'm not saying it's their responsibility, but just to put the whole idea of the disparity in context, it's crazy. So, you know, I look at that. So why are these people born over there? Well, the fact of the matter is life is perfect, regardless of what anybody sees or says. And the term that I use is regardless of the evidence to the contrary. Life is perfect, because for whatever reason, those folks that are born in less than what we would consider ideal situations, the situations are perfect for the life their soul intended to have. And we have to honor and respect that. Now, that doesn't mean that they're supposed to go hungry, but it might mean that they're supposed to understand what it means to be hungry, to work out of that, to recognize that they have the power to change their life experiences anytime they want. So they're going through that process. Now, we can also say that those that are born in more affluent countries, we have a difficult time, too, because now we have to live up to that high standard that's been set by the country, by the people in our family, by our society, and that's not easy either. And I'm not saying I would trade one for the other, but it's just different life experiences that we all have, and we're put in the perfect position to have the experiences our soul intended for us to have.
Well, that was a lot of wisdom. There, Jim, that was a lot of wisdom.
I kind of get going.
I know, it's great though. There was a lot in that. And, I got that feeling that yes, it was true. We're here for a reason. And I do believe that life is perfect, even in its imperfections. There's something in there that makes it perfect. Mm-hmm. Sort of like, those, I don't know if they were the Navajo Indians that would weave a rug that was absolutely perfect, and then they would go back into that rug and they would make one small mistake because they believed that really our higher power, our God, was the only person that could actually create perfection. Mm-hmm. So wasn't that like perfection in the imperfect way? So, Jim, how can we get your book?
Well, it's on my website, so you can go to livinginfullexpression.com, and you can order it through that. You can get it through my publisher, sacredstoriespublishing.com, or you can always get it on Amazon.
Oh, great. And do you want to leave us with one last thought, one last piece of wisdom? Because you are quite good at it.
Because we were talking about truth, I'll leave with this. And this is one of the quotes that actually I was given in one of my walks, but it's become a mantra for me. And when we look at truth, we hold on to these beliefs, whether they're true or not, but we hold on to them and we make decisions, life decisions, against these beliefs that we hold. And the more we hold on to them, especially the ones that are not true, the more we hold on to and make decisions, the further from the truth we get. And we have a hard time letting go of what we know is true, because then it means we're wrong, or that's the term that we would use, that we're wrong. So we have to have right and wrong. So I was struggling with this one day, so I asked a question around that. And the quote that I was given is, today what I know to be true, tomorrow might not be. And that just allowed me to be free of that sense that I had to hold on to the truth, and let me know that just because I believe something doesn't mean that it is the truth. It's true for me up to the moment that it's no longer true. And when I realize that and something new comes in that would replace it, that is more truthful to me, I can let it go, let the new truth come in. That now becomes the belief that I hold until it no longer serves.
Wow, Jim Phillips, that was profound. That was a really profound truth. Thank you so much for being on the show with us today, and thank you to you, our audience, for listening in, and our producer Rachel. Jim, you're going to be on my other radio show, Dreaming Healing, on Dream Visions 7 Radio Network. So those of you watching the show, if you want to listen to more on Jim Phillips and the key to life, make sure you sign up for my newsletter, because the date that he's going to be on that show will be on the newsletter, and you can go to my website, KathleenO'KeefeCanavos.com, or The Queen of Dreams. So until next time, thank you all for being with us, and remember, everybody dreams, but some dreams save lives. Good night, everyone.